Well, the disappointment is definitely real because we expected the Hoosiers to compete a little bit better in this game. Overall, I mean, you can't hang your head about what happened in this season. We'll talk about it all on this episode. Stick with me, Hoosier fans.
Pretty simple. I win.
For three on the way.
Hello, guys, and welcome to Indiana Sports Connection. I am your residential anchor, Aaron. Thank you so much for being here. And I am battling like a cold. I stayed home with my daughter the past 3 days, and she was sick. And so now I'm getting it. So you get to enjoy my rich, leathery voice today, where probably sounds better than it normally does, actually. But what did we see in the game yesterday? That is what we're going to talk about today. The perception of Indiana, of Notre Dame. And look, I mean, I'm just going to say it is difficult to win these games. A lot of this game, I was almost viewing through the perspective of I always root for Notre Dame in these games. In these big games when Notre Dame's played in the playoff, the 2 or 3 times they've played in the playoff and played Alabama, Notre Dame has been completely overmatched by those teams. And it's very disappointing to watch Notre Dame play those games because, yeah, I always root for Notre Dame in those games. So a little bit it felt like that. I mean, we come in, we don't have near as many NFL bodies. They have 8 NFL bodies. We have 3. They have a little bit more depth. And it was just tough sledding the entire way. But we're going to talk about it all. Thank you so much for being with me here. Hit that subscribe button down below. Leave a comment. Hit that thumbs up button. Thank you for joining me on Indiana Sports Connection. Tell me what you thought of the Indiana season. Yeah, it was tough sledding, but I'm honestly not that surprised. It is something I think that we all knew in the back of our minds is something that could happen or would happen in a game like this. I'm going to give it to Notre Dame. I mean, 99 out of 100 times they're going to beat us in that game. And that's just all there is to it. We got to go back and retool. Channel is brought to you by BetUS. Use my promo code Indiana125 and save 125% on your first 3 deposits. Thank you so much to BetUS for sponsoring the channel. And for the last few days until Christmas, all of the ADSENSE revenue on this channel going to T2T.org. And we're getting up over $300 in ADSENSE revenue. So thank you so much for all the people for watching my videos, subscribing to the channel. We have some giveaways coming up on this video. So leave your comment down below. On this video, we will pick one of the comments that will win a shirt from Rally House. And I have a piece of memorabilia also at 2,000 subscribers I'm giving away, and another giveaway at 1,900 subscribers. But we're climbing up there to 2,000 subscribers. So thank you so much for everybody for that, for helping the channel out and growing this Indiana Hoosiers football community. I can't believe how many people this year started watching football videos I made, how many people I corresponded with from different places, Ohio State, Michigan, that really talked up Indiana's football program. And that was absolutely just a fun experience this entire football season, hearing from so many different people commenting about what Kurt Cignetti has done in Indiana. So without further ado, let's get into talking about the Indiana Hoosiers. All right. So, Hillbilly Monkey, we had quite a game to watch there. And what did you think? I mean,
the offense just could not do a damn thing the entire game. And I mean, I love Curtis Rourke, but I think going forward, the coach, he's going to find a quarterback that can run around a little bit, or else you're just dead in the water.
Yeah, I mean, that was one aspect of the game. I mean, Riley Leonard really made plays and moved around in the pocket and made short passes and was able to find the outlets and not let Indiana's pressure, because maybe at the end of, and Kurt Cignetti said this in the press conference, maybe in the end of the second quarter, Indiana was getting there a little bit closer on the pressure, but ultimately they just were really never able to get over on Notre Dame. I don't want to say get over the hump because that's a Mike Woodson thing, but it's tough. It's tough to take. And like I said, Indiana definitely needs to go back and retool. I got a clip here of Kadick that plays on the offensive line. This guy has been through thick and thin. I think he's played like 5 or 6 years at Indiana, so he's been here through the upsides of Tom Allen and the downsides of Tom Allen, and then being here for this team. But this guy plays on the offensive line, one of those like real tying bonds that's been with Indiana for a while. Hillbilly Monkey, roll that clip.
As a whole, so proud of how this team has, played this season as, usually the underdog. A lot of people doubted us all year, but we kind of stuck to us. We kind of just relied on each other in each room, and we proved a lot of people wrong. And there's so much more to be proud of, but I don't want to get too emotional up here.
So, yeah, I mean, you can just see that Indiana's players are just heartbroken that the season comes to an end like this. Justice Ellison, some of the guys that won't be back next year, Curtis Rourke, they did their best. I mean, Curtis Rourke, you could not have scripted a season for Indiana to go in any more of a positive way than this one went. Going forward, if we can somehow be one of those teams that gets into the college football playoff, say 3 of the first 4 years, maybe they play it, now you got recruiting power to bring in top level guys. And I think being in the playoff is going to help Indiana doing that. You can already see they're getting some better recruits because, look, we knew this the whole time. These were 1-2-star recruits that went to JMU that were like worked their asses off. And Curt Cignetti brings a bunch of these guys in from JMU. So, I mean, I view that as like almost like a MAC school, a mid-level team. Their recruiting is not going to be nowhere on the par with like what Notre Dame does. So, I mean, you take this group of guys that came from JMU, really came into Indiana, helped transform this group to get them to the college football playoff. It's remarkable no matter what you say. I mean, and yeah, are they going to compete against the likes of Notre Dame with this roster? Apparently not. You got to really look at that. And look, I've watched teams like Iowa, Wisconsin, some of those teams, Michigan State, they've been there and played in the Big Ten championship game against the likes of like a Michigan or an Ohio State in some of those games and not come out on the great end of it. And that's just how it is in football. Wisconsin, Iowa, Michigan State, us at Indiana, if we can beat those teams consistently, we can get into this playoff. We just have to make ourselves right up there. I mean, in the Big Ten's going to get 3 teams in every year. Who's that third team going to be? It's practically going to be Ohio State, Michigan, 1-2. They get the best recruits in the Big Ten. Can Indiana slide in with Curt Cignetti and be one of those teams? That's something to be excited about going into the future for Indiana football because Curt Cignetti, he brought in his guys, but he brought in a culture and he brought in a swagger and a way of winning that we just have never really ever seen in Indiana. We've seen glimpses of it here and there. We've had some teams. Now, I think Indiana, like this team, our defense was really, really good. But I think overall, Indiana's had some better offenses than what this one did against some of the higher competition. I mean, when you look back at some teams like this, maybe you want to say this is the best Indiana team. This is not the best Indiana's offense has ever been. And I do think just with maybe Penix, they were able to play Ohio State, score more points on them. But that's where Indiana's been able to get top level wide receivers and things like that, and quarterbacks that have made runs in the NFL. We've been able to get those types of players. So, I mean, going forward, I mean, Curt Cignetti, he has a great eye for recruiting. He's been a quarterback's coach through his career. He's been a wide receivers coach through his career. So that's where could Indiana keep this level of defensive, intensity and then raise their overall bar. That is one part. And early in the year, and this was never talked about, but Indiana lost like an offensive lineman early in the year. A lot of their guys on the offensive line were guys that were holdovers from last year. And for the most part, all year playing against the likes of Michigan State, Nebraska, Washington, this offensive line held up. And a lot of games, when you look back, our defense held teams down long enough for our offense to kind of get going and kind of get in the game. This game was not one where you were going to have that kind of time. And Jeremiah Love really put his stamp on this game right away. And I know he had some type of an injury. That's probably why coming into this game that they were talking about, it's probably why he only ran the ball 4 times. But when you have one run of 98 yards, you don't really have to do a whole lot more than that. I mean, you put 7 points on the board. You got Indiana behind. And I thought Indiana was going to be able to run the ball in this game more. Like from the beginning, you saw Lawton get off on a big gash early, and they were able to get the ball. The big mistake, though, everybody's talking about is like a completely unforced error by Curtis Rourke throwing that interception. All those individual little mistakes, it was not all going to matter in this game. I just don't think Indiana was going to be able to get over on this team because of what they were doing inside. Although Notre Dame's defensive line, not nearly as good as Ohio State's. Cross, and then you saw they lost Riley Mills midway through the game, but ultimately the speed of their linebackers, they were crisscrossing inside, and then the ability of their defensive tackles to really get like a quick twitch on our offensive line, and they were just turning the edges on Indiana every which way when Curtis Rourke had the ball, and that had his head spinning out there. And Rourke is just, I think Curt Cignetti is going to go out there and find a quarterback that can make more plays. I think he wants a more dynamic quarterback that can run the ball and do maybe some of the things that we saw Riley Leonard do. Because ultimately, I mean, our RPO game, and one time Curtis Rourke kept the ball, but it's like, it's not really a run-pass option when Rourke really can't run the ball. So that's really what I take from this going forward. And there are going to be a ton of people out there talking about, oh, Indiana put garbage points up. The final score, it is what it is. It is what it is. Indiana got dominated in this game. It was tough to watch from a Hoosier perspective. There were a lot of IU fans there. It was great to see. Nobody was picking IU, and practically what happened, what the stinky Nick Saban said, was like Indiana was going to be overmatched. And that is what happened. So you just got to take it like a man. And that's what happened. And you got to go back and retool. Cignetti said in the press conference afterwards, look, we're fast, fierce, relentless. They're just bigger, stronger, faster. And when the guys are bigger, stronger, faster, it leaves you with nowhere to really go with some of this stuff. Hillbilly Monkey, what was your take on the game? What did you think about the coaching? Tell us about your take.
Carved from the sands of the Wabash River and formed into a monkey lamp that's sold at Home Goods. It's the Hillbilly Monkey Perspective on Indiana Sports Connection.
Well, a lot of these guys on Indiana, they've been sacrificing all year, and the way that they played today in that game, they got nothing to be ashamed of. They tried their hardest. This is Indiana's best football team they've had in, like 100 years. So it's no surprise that they got beat. Hey, it's going to take a lot to beat teams like Georgia, like Alabama, and Notre Dame is just the first kind of stepping stone. And it was good to see, we aren't close to beating a Notre Dame like that, but for 70 years, 100 years, we never cared about football. You just can't turn a switch and make it that you're going to just beat them tomorrow just because you got Curt Cignetti as your coach.
That's exactly right. I mean, it's hard to, you think you're just going to come into this football game and just beat a team in the college football playoff. Look, like I said before, Notre Dame, they've lost a lot of these types of games. It just is what it is. I'm not too down about it, just kind of reflecting on the season. The Hoosiers basketball team plays today at noon, so you can point your attention towards that, and we'll be talking about that. But leave your comments down below. Tell me what you thought about the Hoosiers. Give the video a thumbs up if you still love what the Hoosiers did. And until next time, stay classy out there, Hoosier fans.